Welcome to Career and Leadership Real Talk, the no-nonsense guide for ambitious managers who want to have more impact and progress their career. I'm Pamela Langan, a job search coach and expert CV writer specialising in helping frustrated professionals land the jobs and pay rises they know they deserve.
And I'm Jacqui, a leadership and mindset coach specialising in helping newly promoted and new to role leaders to avoid the dickhead trap and lead with confidence. Between us, we've helped hundreds of leaders and managers to find new roles, take ownership of their careers, and handle the challenges that job searches and leadership responsibility inevitably bring. And now we're joining forces to share with you what we know has worked for our clients.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode. We are at the very last episode of 2024 for Career and Leadership Real Talk, which is nuts. So we are recording this at the end of November, trying to get a little bit ahead of ourselves. And it will be no surprise if you have listened during the course of this year, you will know that we talk a lot about the power of reflection. So we thought that what better, more fitting topic that as we come towards the end of this year, we're going to encourage you to reflect on your career in 2024 and the progress that you've made. And we thought that the way we would do that is we've got a download that you can get your hands on from the show notes with some reflection questions that we're going to encourage you to reflect on. And we are going to ask each other some of these questions. Now, we are also putting each other on the spot. So who knows what might come up from this conversation. Is going to be quite a different one. I think we're probably both feeling a little bit nervous, aren't we, about this one?
Yeah, I think this is where we take the real talk to the next level, isn't it? Because we literally don't know what either of us is going to say, but let's do it. I think this will be fun.
So if you download our career reflection guide, what you'll find is that we've got 4 sections. So you've got 5 questions in each, and you've got some reflections on career impact. You've got some reflections on mindset and learning and how that's shifted for you during this year, some reflections on relationships and impact, and then some future-focused reflections as well, which apparently is a bit of a tongue twister that I wasn't quite expecting. So in each one, you've got 5 questions, and we're just going to kick off by starting to ask each other one question each from those, and we'll see what you get to know or understand about us from listening to our responses. So Pam, let's start with career impact then. And the question that I'm going to ask you is, what skill or capability have you developed that surprised you in 2024?
Oh, that's a good one. So I would say the skill that I've developed, and I know that we talk a lot about reflection. We're always talking about reflection, but there is really an art to reflecting properly and using it to move forward. And I feel like in 2024, one of the things that I have really pushed myself to do is to reflect at a deeper level and to use those reflections to figure out how I can be better in all aspects of my life. So I would say that reflection is the skill or capability that I have developed the most this year. And I know the question was a skill or capability that surprised you. And if you listen to the podcast, you probably think, well, that's not surprising because they're always talking about reflection. But I do feel like I surprise myself with that because, yeah, we reflect and we do all of that, but I have made it a daily ritual that I reflect and then use that reflection to move forward. And I feel like that has really helped me grow from a professional point of view and also in all of the different areas of my life this year.
Love that. And how did that come about?
So I think the key to this was making it a habit. And it was something that I found quite difficult actually, because I know that we say we should always reflect. And I had a kind of a monthly or maybe a bi-weekly slot in my calendar where it'd be like reflect on the month or reflect on the last couple of weeks. And I did that. And I suppose that was a habit. But I created that morning habit where it was journaling and creating that space every single morning without fail to do that. Now, sometimes it'd be 5 minutes, sometimes it would be 10 minutes. It was always really short though. And I think creating the habit has really helped me to implement it. And I just don't think I could go a day now without doing that. And I do feel like it really helped me to get clarity on lots of different things.
It's really interesting hearing you describe, because I've also done more reflection during the course of this year, and my pattern has been quite different. So the approach that I've found has worked for me has been less about the daily habit, and I think more about carving up good chunks of time. So I really like being coached, and I've had reflection time in, I guess, some of those bigger chunks, and often from the benefit of being coached myself and from having someone that will ask me questions that I might not think to ask myself. And I'm really looking forward. So in a couple of days, I've got another day with a coaching group that I'm part of. And I really can't wait, because the questions that get asked when you're part of a community with other coaches, they will really be challenging sometimes with the questions that they will prompt. But everybody has different questions that are second nature to them. And so I've found real benefit in taking bigger chunks of time, fully stepping back from the day to day, rather than that little and often approach that you've described. So I love that we've both seen shifts in that, but we've seen it from approaching it in different ways.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good thing to point out there as well, because everybody is different. So when we're talking about reflection, like some people think, I haven't got time to do it, or I'm not somebody that would do that. And it's really key to understand that actually you can make it fit around you, and it can work for you no matter how you work or how you do things. You can make it work for you. And I think that is the key to it. And I've encouraged all of my clients to reflect this year as well. And the feedback from them has been like, wow, what a difference it makes. I'm going to ask you a question now. So from the career impact reflections, I'm going to ask you, what feedback did you receive that really made you think?
Oh, this is a great one. So I am going to say with this one, back in May, I spoke at the HR Big Meet, which is an event for HR professionals. I love it as an event. I'd been there as a participant the year before, and I put my hand up when speaker applications opened. And it was a proper heart in the mouth moment when I did that. I didn't necessarily expect that I would get the opportunity to speak. And I actually opened the day, and I shared a much more personal story as part of that day than perhaps I might have done in the past. And the feedback that I had off the back of it was, I guess, around a combination of those two things. So I had really lovely feedback on my speaking skills and on my speaking ability, which was really lovely to hear. And that was really encouraging. But the bit that was a great reminder and really made me think was about the emotional connection of that personal story that I shared. And as someone who is very practical, very down to earth, and typically very pacey, I think that's been a really useful reminder for me to, and it's something that I talk ironically to leadership clients about all the time, to be willing to be a bit vulnerable sometimes, and to be willing to share some of those ups and downs and those experiences that allow people to relate. So that was a brilliant reminder. And yeah, I just had the best time speaking, really enjoyed it. And it's something that gave me the encouragement that I would be brave again, I think, and be willing to be quite personal in what I share.
Yeah, it's interesting the way you're talking about sharing that personal story and creating that emotional connection. And you're right, like it can make you feel a little bit vulnerable at times. And I think as a leader, being vulnerable, sharing some of that personal stuff and knowing how to share it and where to draw the line on it can be quite difficult at times. For you to share that story, what had changed for you to get to that point in order to think, do you know what, I am ready to put this out there to this audience?
So the story that I shared, which isn't one that we've talked about yet on the podcast, was about being fired. And that is something that for a long time, it I think we've talked about it actually in the episode where we talked about recovering your confidence after a settlement agreement. So we had touched on it, and that was relatively early, that episode. And again, it's one that we know has been really high impact for people that have listened to it. We've had quite a lot of feedback and comments from people that have listened. But to tell that live in a room full of people, I think the big thing that had to change was that I had to be willing to be okay with, it doesn't matter what people think of me or what people might think about the fact that I've been fired, because I'm okay with me. And so I think had that have been a year earlier, I would not have had the gumption to stand up in front of a room of nearly 250 people and share that story and share the emotional impact of going through that and how it felt at the time and what I'd learned from it. And the irony is on the podcast, but we do quite often talk about our experiences. And I don't think twice about talking about mistakes I've made or things that I did wrong or things that I've learned. But this felt quite different being live, I think. And I think it was very much that sense of my view of myself is more important than other people's judgments about me. I think that was where I had to get to be in a position to share that live in the way that I did.
Yeah, and that's quite a transformation, isn't it, when you think about it? And I suppose that for other people thinking about their career story and what's happened, like we know that lots of people take so much baggage along with them as they go through their career, and it can be really difficult to progress and keep moving forward and really own that position and really excel in it when you've got that baggage and when you've not processed those things. And whatever's happened, everybody's going to have a different story. I'm sure everybody's got a similar story, that something that they don't want other people to judge them on. So I feel like that's an amazing thing to share on the podcast, because people listening will have things going on for them, and it's okay. And if it doesn't feel okay, it's time to think about how you process those things and how you start moving through them and away from them and losing all of the shame and all of those feelings around them as well.
Absolutely. So in terms of mindset and learning then, which is very nicely linked from that and is the next section, question for you is, what did you learn about yourself through your challenges?
Oh, this is a good one, isn't it? What did I learn about myself through the challenges? Okay, there's been quite a few challenges this year, I think, from a business perspective, from a personal perspective. And I think if I was going to pick one thing that I've learned about myself, is that I can always find a solution. And I think the key thing with that is really focusing in on solutions and options rather than focusing on the problems. And I think there's a saying out there, isn't it? Just focus 80% on the solution and 20% on the problem, whichever way around that is. But definitely thinking more about the solutions, and rather than going into panic mode when you're faced with a challenge, it's about logically taking a few moments. And I think the reflection has really helped with that as well. So anytime I've faced a challenge, rather than going into panic mode and thinking, how the hell are we going to sort this out? It's okay, let's be rational, let's be logical, and let's look at potential solutions. And if I feel like there aren't any solutions, because I'm like almost entering into that panic mode, it's who can I speak to? Who can I talk to? Who can I offload this to? And I think what I've found as well is sometimes just getting it out of your head and actually speaking it out into the world, into the universe, it actually minimizes any challenge or problem that you've got. So if anybody's received voice notes from me talking about my challenges, and I know I've sent Jacqui a few this year, but what I've realized is just that download actually helps get things straight in my head. And that, I think that's the key thing that I've learned, that there's always a solution, no matter what, no matter how bad you think something is, there's always a solution, there's always a way around it. And if there isn't an immediate solution or way that you can get around it, there's always something else that you can do to go around it and deal with it in some way.
Love that reflection. So which question have you got for me from this section then?
So the next question for you is, what new possibilities can you see now that you couldn't see last January?
I love this question. It's a really interesting one to reflect on because I feel this year has just gone by so quickly. It feels like it's not actually that long since last January. And yet, when I ask myself that, what I recognize is that I've gained an awful lot of clarity during the course of this year. So when you think about what we've done, various outplacement projects, we've launched the Career Club, we've run our Career Clarity Challenge, we've done a whole nother year of episodes of the podcast. And that's just stuff we've done together. And then each of us separately has done our own stuff. So I feel like for me, the possibilities that I see are probably in developing some of the things that I've most enjoyed from this year. And in particular, for me, the Career Club has been brilliant during the course of this year. It was thrown together. It was an idea that we had and we ran with. And I really enjoyed, if I just think in the last week, I ran a session last week for the members, and the engagement and the interaction that we get from that is just so brilliant. So for me, that one, and kind of seeing the possibility of that growing and evolving and becoming more of a community and more of what we envisioned when we first started it, that's a huge one for me.
Yeah, I love that. And I think just thinking, as you're talking through that, then I was just thinking, wow, it's been a year, hasn't it? It's been a great year. There's been so many things that we've just picked up and run with, so many amazing people that we've spoken to, companies that we've worked with, individuals that we've worked with. And I think Career Club has been probably one of the highlights. And also getting to 100 podcast episodes. There's just been so much, hasn't there? It's almost like when you look back, you go, wow, the year's gone so fast, but actually there's been a lot that we've done this year.
So I'm going to ask you then about a relationship and impact question, because I have a sneaking suspicion I might know the answer to this, but we haven't discussed them, so I'm not sure. What impact have you had on others that you're most proud of?
The impact that I've had on others that I'm most proud of. So I would say this year particularly has been a year where I feel like I've been able to motivate and inspire quite a lot of people through different ways. Through the podcast, we went to an event this year and people approached just to say, oh, we love the podcast. Like, we didn't even know that these people were listeners. And it was just like, oh my goodness, have you heard the podcast? And quite a few people wanted to talk to us about it and ask us more questions. And it was like, oh my goodness, this is like amazing. It's great to hear from people. And we always love the messages that come through, but meeting people in real life that are like, I knew because you do the Career and Leadership podcast, and it has been amazing hearing that feedback and knowing that the impact. People have approached us and said that they've had pay rises, they've increased their confidence, that they've decided what is next for them when they actually couldn't figure it out. And that is amazing. And even down to conversations that I've had on the side of the football pitch. If you don't know already, I am a football mum most nights of the week and every single weekend. And I think thinking about the impact that I've had on others, so many people who I've spoken to and being able to inspire and motivate them to think about what is right for them and to move away from things that aren't serving them, to take that next step in their career because they deserve that, because they've worked really hard, helping people to get rid of that imposter syndrome and just really see themselves for who they are and really believe in themselves and own that experience and all of that good stuff that they bring. So I think that is probably the impact that I'm most proud of, because so many people have approached me this year to say thank you. So let me ask you a question then from the relationship and impact section. So who has been most influential in your career this year and why?
So I might get a bit emotional actually as I talk about this one, because this is you.
Oh,
I am getting really emotional.
I might also get emotional.
We can decide whether or not we're going to leave this in the final edit. Yeah, for me, there has been a real theme, I think. When I was employed, one of the mistakes that I made was I tried do too much on my own. And some of that was about being protective of my team and not wanting to ask too much of them. So I'd rather take it on my shoulders rather than ask of them. And some of it was about ego and wanting to be able to be the superstar and be able to do everything and be the one who could deliver. And it meant that throughout the course of my employed career, I had a real habit of just going for things on my own. And so what has been really lovely, and it has been longer than just the last year, we've had the podcast for 2 years, we've been collaborating since the kind of summer before that. But certainly over the course of this year, it has been built upon where it feels so good to have a business partner. It feels so good to have a proper collaboration. And I think what I really get from you is that energy to, let's just try things, let's give it a go. And I don't want to let you down. So that makes me stick to things and be a bit more tenacious when perhaps I might have given up otherwise. But also it's really inspiring because I know that you believe in me and that really helps me believe in me. So yeah, there we go. I'm getting all emotional again, but it's you.
Oh, and now I've got to talk. I'm going to also get emotional, but I also literally could have said that myself, but you said it in such a lovely way. But I think this is the best job that I've ever had, and the best career move that I've ever made was teaming up with you and creating what we've created. Yeah, I think this year particularly, I feel like we've both grown in so many ways, and I think it's because we've got back up. And you're right, I don't want to let you down. You feel like you don't want to let me down, but it doesn't really spurs you on because it's tough being a business owner. It's not just about doing one job, you're doing multiple jobs. But at the same time, we're both very career driven. So career is so important. And I think that's why we absolutely love doing the podcast and everything, because our careers are so important to us. And we know that your career is important to you too. So it's just brilliant. It is literally the best collaboration, the best job ever. I'm going to ask you a question then from future focus section. So moving forward from all the emotional stuff, all of the love into the future. So let me ask you this question. What seeds did you plant this year that will grow in 2025?
Oh, this is a great question. And where my brain immediately goes to with this is a quote. So Katie Walton, who was our guest on the episode about developing others, I don't know if we spoke about this quote when she was on the episode, but something that I heard originally from her was time spent building relationships is never wasted. And I absolutely love that quote because it gave me carte blanche to spend time building relationships and chatting to people, which I absolutely love. But I think for me, it was a real reminder. Again, when I was employed, I think I under prioritized some relationships. I absolutely prioritized relationships with my team and with people who I was responsible for and that I worked closely with. But there were relationships that would have benefited my career that I didn't prioritize and I didn't invest in. And what that meant was that when I then came out of employment, and we've talked about it in the episode about networking, and we see it with outplacement clients where you talk about people's network and they're like, oh, I don't have one. And what they often mean by that is that they haven't consciously built relationships beyond the in-place work relationships that they naturally have. So they might be really strong at relationship building and able to do that. But for me, the seeds that I've planted this year that will grow are all about relationships. There's some incredible people who I have had the opportunity to have conversations with through the podcast, through events that I've been to, through meeting people on LinkedIn all over the place. And for me, those relationships are seeds that will grow and will develop. And I don't mean by that I've been all Machiavellian and only will start trying to build relationships with people where I feel there's a benefit to me. It's just that sense of trust, that building my relationships up and out. and prioritizing spending time on that and considering that as important stuff to do rather than an extra pressure that I'll get to when I've got time for it, I think has been a real opportunity for me that will bear fruit. So that one.
I love that. And yeah, you're right about the relationships. I think that we've done a lot of that this year and it's been amazing. We've met and spoke to so many amazing people.
Question for you then from this section is, what would make 2025 your best professional year yet? This is the very last question, and it's a big question. So I'll give you a moment to pause and consider what your answer might be for this one.
Okay, so I already know the answer to this one. And there's probably a couple of things actually, but I'm going to talk about two things. So the first thing is I would absolutely love to see 200 people join us in Career Club. That would be one of the best things ever, because we're helping people really move forward and become better leaders and progress in their career. So I'd absolutely love to see 200 people in Career Club. And the other thing that I would absolutely love is for me and you to do a keynote together. So we're obviously on a weekly, monthly basis, we're doing training online and in person with different companies. But what I would absolutely love to do is to do a keynote together. I think that would be amazing. So if anybody is organising any events and you want us to come and talk about any of the subjects that we've talked about on the podcast or anything else that you know that we could talk about, then get in touch, because we are a very good double act. And I think that would make 2025 like one of the best years if we did something like that together.
Yeah, I would absolutely love that, especially because when I did speak, you were going away on holiday the next day. And for anyone that doesn't know, Pam has a terrible history with trains. Do not be going in the same direction as Pam on a train journey at any given point in time, because wherever she goes, chaos ensues on the rail network. So it could not be risked for you to be there when I'm speaking this year, because you wouldn't have been guaranteed to be back in time for your holiday. So yeah, absolutely love the idea of a keynote and definitely am up for that. So hopefully this has given you an insight into some of the questions that we have included in our Career Reflections download. As we said, we really encourage you to take time to really ponder and think about these. And you could also just grab someone that you get on with and ask some of these questions of each other. I think it's been a really interesting way to do it, asking each other the questions. And I suspect we've probably had some different answers than we might have had if we'd have just sat and made notes in a notebook. So yeah, please do access those, download them from the link in the show notes. And as ever, we would love to hear what your reflections are. If we have had some impact in some small way from the podcast, and please do let us know. And if there are any topics that you would like us to cover during the course of 2025, then we do have quite a long list already that we can go at, but we always love responding and reacting to topics that our listeners have asked us for. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast during the course of this year. And we hope that you have a lovely and restful break over Christmas and New Year. And we will be back in the new year. So our first episode in the new year is going to be for those of you who are potentially looking at wanting to make some change to your career. So if you do find that comes out from your reflections, then we will be back on the 6th of January with our next episode on that topic. Thanks for being with us this year, and we will catch you again next time.
Exciting news from us. If you're an ambitious leader or manager earning 50k or more and you're ready to take your career to the next level, we have an opportunity for you. Introducing Catalyst Career Club, your secret weapon for unlocking career success. As a member, you'll get access to monthly live training sessions, exclusive job opportunities, and the ability to get personalised advice from us on your toughest career challenges.
We've helped thousands of driven leaders like you secure significant pay rises, land dream roles and thrive in their careers. And now we want to support you in achieving your most ambitious career goals too. Membership is just $6.99 per month with no contract or tie-in. And as a special bonus for being our podcast listeners, you can use the code podcast at checkout to get your first month for just £1. Head over to pamelalangan.com/Catalyst Career Club to sign up now, and we'll see you inside.